Well, good morning. Hope you're having a great start to your day. And welcome to another live here. And again, as usual, just wait a moment or two to get people on. Good morning, Nativity and Holly. Nice to have you on this morning. Rosalinda and Carrie, good morning to you. Nice to have you on. Rosa and Andrea from Niagara Falls. Sorry, good morning. Sorry, how are you? John, good morning to you from Elgin, Illinois. Nick from our staff. Donna and Dorita, good morning to you. Francis Marie and Danielle, good morning to you. And Karen from Kincardine. And Wendy, good morning, Wendy. And Yolande, bonjour. Long time no talk. Naja, Derek, Frida, and Roma. We appreciate you guys. Beth, okay, here we go. Ermi, nice to have you on. Vicky, and Linda. Every time I see Linda, I wonder if you're the real Linda. Chandra, Natalie, and Chrissy. Good morning to you. Carrie. New study came out, so we'll talk about that this morning. Edith, and John, and Linda, and Dorothy, and Debbie. Good morning to you. Nice to have you on. Bruno and Diane. And Linda. There's another Linda from sunny Pennsylvania. Good morning to you, Denise. We appreciate it. Colette. Good morning. And Rita. And another Linda from St. Jude, Quebec. The Lindas are on this morning. Charlene from British Columbia. Boy, that's early in the morning there. Good morning. Suzanne and Kathy and Holly. Thanks a lot, guys, for coming on. Let's talk a little bit here this morning. I think we'll do a little bit of review, but a new study came out on cancer, and let me just read it to you here. A new research by cancer biologist. This came out in the July Journal of Neurology, and he was done some research on an aggressive brain and spinal cord cancer, and talked about that the cancer slowed down rapidly when you eliminated sugar and carbs. Now, it's been a long time that we've really known the truth about cancer. Now, let me just give you an overall statement that, it's not controversial, but it's an overall statement that medicine, in my opinion, has been looking for love in all the wrong places when it comes to cancer research. They are focused in primarily on genetics. Most of the medication, most of the chemo, radiation is focused in on the cancer cells, but their research is basically on genetics, that the DNA gets messed up in the cell and it turns into a cancer cell, and it grows, and it reproduces itself, and that's where they focus their treatment. And there's a new branch coming out now that I'm more impressed with, and that is in the area of immunotherapy. Immunotherapy. I like that better. It's trying to get the immune system, our immune system, to turn on cancer. I like that better. But, you know, it's got to be over 100 years ago. There was a fella by the name of Otto Warburg. You might have heard his name. And he actually was a biochemist, and he won the Nobel Prize 100 years ago. And one of the things that he discovered was that cancer cells, this is 100 years ago, guys, needs fuel. Cancer cells need fuel. And their primary source, they're like out-of-control teenagers. Their primary source of fuel is sugar. And remember, I say it all the time, that carbs, grains, turn into sugar rapidly. Rapidly. So if we do nothing else, we eliminate sugar from our diets. Oh, doc, I got a sweet tooth. Well, you better not have when it comes to cancer. It always bothers me that in the cancer center in Sudbury, there's a Tim Hortons in there. Now, I don't mind the coffee, okay? Here I am drinking my coffee. I don't mind the coffee, but it's everything else they serve in there is promoting cancer growth. Sugar. The worst food in the world, probably rat chow. You want to get a mouse to fatten up, or a rat? You give them a donut. Rat chow, because it's bad fat and sugar. You know, doc, it's a carrot muffin. There's 8 teaspoons of sugar in there. Forget the carrot. It's sugar. So Otto Warburg 100 years ago talked about that. Of course, they bury it. It doesn't fit their narrative that food would be important. When I wrote the book, The Reset, I talked about the PET scan, which is not for your pets, by the way. The PET scan is a cancer imaging. They give you a cup of glucose, or somebody was telling me they got glucose sent right into their veins and then put in the machine, and you light up like a Christmas tree if you have cancer. Okay? Now, what I want to talk about today too, okay? When it comes to cancer, I want to give you how it develops. Okay? How it develops. It's a very unholy trinity. A very unholy trinity. Cancer loves carbs. Okay? We all know that. It's well established. This new study in the Journal of Neurology in July confirms it, that cancer loves carbohydrates. And this Thomas, let me get his name right, Thomas Seyfried, that cancer slows down rapidly if you don't feed it. And he was looking at particularly a very aggressive brain and spinal cord and breast cancer, by the way, he was looking at too. Interesting study. So, step number 1, cancer needs fuel. It loves glucose. 1. Here's important too. Step number 2. Okay, so cancer needs fuel. When you're eating a lot of carbs, what are you doing? You're increasing your insulin. What is insulin? Well, insulin's primary job is to get sugar out of the bloodstream. But what happens when you use it too much? You get insulin resistance. What does that do? Insulin is a growth hormone. Remember that. Okay, remember that. Insulin makes things grow. That's not good. So the less insulin you use, the better it is. And remember, insulin's primary job is to, when you insist on eating sugar or carbohydrates, sugar is in the bloodstream and insulin is going, come here, you, out, 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 out. It's a storage. Remember, it's the traffic cop, but insulin is a growth hormone. So cancer cells are eating sugars, and people that insist on eating sugars and carbs are secreting a lot of insulin, and the more you use insulin, the more it will continue. Look, if your cells say, look, I'm tired of you, you're a bad neighbor, quit coming over to my house, I don't like to see you, insulin still comes, whether you like it or not, as long as you insist on eating carbohydrates and sugars. Crappy carbs. What do I mean by that? Bread, pasta, rice, cereals, sugars, sweets, pastries, muffins, oh, Dr. Martin, it's whole grain. Ooh, I don't care. As long sugar feeds the cancer, sugar feeds it, and insulin makes it grow. Okay? Insulin makes it grow. And it grows, grows, grows. And remember, okay, when we say growth, I always bring you back to the example of my ballpoint pen, okay? I often use the ballpoint pen because it's really the size of your pancreas. But what do you have at the end of your ballpoint? You actually have the little tip here. For cancer to grow to the size of a ballpoint pen takes 5 years. So people got this idea of rapidly growing. Yes, we'll get to that. We'll get to that. When it really takes off. But cancer starts slowly, very slowly in terms of size. It's really submicroscopic. I can tell you that I'm pointing, you and I've been saying this for half a century. Boy, I'm getting old. Cancer cells in the beginning are very slow growing. And you and I are fighting cancer even at this very moment. cancer cells. Even at this very moment, you and I are fighting cancer. You have some cancer cells in your body, 100% true. And so do I. The idea is, don't feed them. Now, you're not going to hear that in mainstream media. You just won't hear it. But we need to repeat that because cancer, you know when they say cancer can be beaten? Yeah. But not by, just stop smoking. There was a dent in the cancer rates. There was actually a dent in the in heart disease. When people stop smoking, the graph, if you watch it, it's pretty dramatic. Cancer was going like this. Heart disease was going up the slope. And then, whoop, there was a nice little, in the early 80s, I watched it. It was coming down a bit. Cancer can be beaten. Just stop smoking. Well, we found out. Isn't it interesting, guys? Isn't it interesting? I'm a historian. I've been given an honorary degree, okay? By myself. No, I love part of nutrition. When I did my doctorate in it, part of that was the history of things. Observe, look back. Don't spend your life looking in the rearview mirror, but it's not a bad idea to glance back there once in a while. You'll learn some stuff. But here's what I observed in the 1980s. I'm sure others did too, but I'm a guy that, when something happens, why? I want to know why. So when there was a dip in the early 80s, I watched it. I was in practice. I watched the dip go like this. It went down a bit. Oh, that's, people got the memo, stop smoking. Okay. My dad got it 20 years before that. And, he found smoking's no good for you. He thought it was good for you. I'm telling you, just how crazy the world is. Anyway, but in 1982, I think, can't remember exactly what year, the FDA approved a new sugar called high fructose corn syrup. The food industry started using it in everything. And here's what happened in terms of cancer. All bets were off now when it came to smoking. As the graph started to go down, there was a pretty rapid uptake in those numbers of cancer and heart disease. The Frankenstein of sugars was brought out by the food industry. And there was a 300% uptake since then in cancer and cardiovascular disease. We hardly even knew what we knew what insulin did, but we hardly even, insulin resistance. What? I'm telling you, that is like a new phenomenon, is insulin resistance. Metabolic syndrome is really a new phenomenon in 88% of the population. 88% of the population are unwell metabolically. That means they have created an environment for cancer to grow, grow, grow. And when they leave the hospital, when they leave the cancer centers in North America with Boost, I get a migraine headache. When they leave with Ensure, I get a migraine headache. When they're told, just have a balanced diet. Oh, that bothers me. There's no such thing as a balanced diet. Because you're getting so much carbs and sugars. That's not balanced. That is so unbalanced. And we got to go back 100 years or more to Otto Warburg, who told us that cancer cells are starving, like teenagers. Hey, you just ate an hour ago. You mean you're hungry again? Yeah, I'm a teenager. I don't know where you put it. We've watched it, guys, with our eyeballs, the changing of the world. So when smoking went down, high fructose corn syrup went up, and I sort of rest my case with that, with people. I just say, well, if 88% of the population is unwell, but nobody's talking about it, they are at high risk for heart disease and cancer and Alzheimer's and diabetes. Now listen, I've been saying this, and I sort of want to self-explain a little bit, just so that you understand where I come from. A lot of people are diabetic without knowing they're diabetic. Okay? A lot of people are diabetic without knowing they're diabetic, meaning that diabetes, our little saying at the Martin Clinic, diabetes is the last thing to happen. Not the first, it's the last thing to happen. Because your pancreas, remember, the size of a ballpoint pen, your pancreas is dedicated to keep you from diabetes. So if you become a diabetic, there's a lot of diabetics. I mean, what is it, 50% of the population? But folks, listen, diabetes was the last thing that happened to them. Oh, I'm not a diabetic. Yes, you are. Okay? If your A1C is in the 5 to 5.2 or 3, you're effectively already a diabetic. You just won't get the diagnosis. Because doctors have a range, medicine has a range, and as long as you're not in that range, you're not. And I remember, go back 20 years ago, when the term pre-diabetic came out. This was established by alternative medicine, really, because medicine didn't like that term, pre. Oh, there's no such thing. And now, yeah, I guess there is, And some doctors will tell. I used to tell people that come into the office, and I said, man, even if your doctor doesn't tell you you're a diabetic, I'm telling you you're a diabetic. Now, you need to put that to bed. For heart disease? Because heart disease, you got high blood pressure, you got bad triglycerides and you got bad, like low HDL, you are really a diabetic. Without the term. You and carbs don't get along. You're feeding the bad guys. That's why for me, you have to understand where I come from. And sometimes I don't, if you send me your blood work, I'm not going to spend 2 hours. I can't. Looking at it. I don't need to. I look at little, maybe 5, 6 things. Show me your triglycerides. Show me your HDL. Show me your A1C. That's an average. If you give me fasting glucose, I'll look at that too, okay? And show me your CRP, C-reactive protein. Why is that? Because that's a marker of inflammation. I want to see that, if you can get it done. You know me, I like to look at B12. I like to look at vitamin D, your dehydroxy. Again, and then, there's other things I'd look at a quick glance, like I look at your liver enzymes, if you have them there. I like to look at that. Your kidney function, to see if your kidneys are stressed. I look at, I look at creatinine and protein levels, not because you're eating protein. But if you have it, I go through a quick glance, and I don't care if it's been flagged or not flagged. I don't care. I'm looking for something else. And I look at thyroid numbers. And I have a range that I know where your thyroid is working really well. It's a state secret, by the way. I don't tell you what I'm looking at. No, but guys, listen, diabetes, but if you got trouble with carbs, you're a diabetic. Don't deceive yourself. And there's something that you can control in life. You can't control everything. You might walk out of your house today and get hit by a bus. I hope not. I hope not. Okay, but come on. You can't control everything in life. But you can control what you eat. This has been the most neglected part of medicine, is prevention. They're into early detection, not prevention. Even the virus, guys, if anything that has showed us in the last 18 months is that we don't even talk about a person's, how do you prevent this thing? How does your immune system work? Nobody's talking about that. It drives me crazy. So, now remember this now, because I'm going to bring in a couple of other things. I'm going to bring in a couple of other stages, and we're going to do this pretty quickly. 1, cancer cells need fuel, right? And they get fuel, and they're like teenagers, and they give me the sugar, and they grow. They start to mutate. They're like kamikaze pilots, and they start destroying normal cells. It's all cellular, so you're not even seeing it. You might have no markers. Then it's food again, because you have insulin. Your cells resist insulin. When you resist insulin, insulin is a growth hormone. It makes things grow. And then, because of this is more environmental, you get a perfect storm. because you have estrogen coming at the cellular level. How does estrogen come? Every time I see somebody pumping those artificial, I call them, cleaners, hand sanitizers, and spray. I've never seen so much chemicals used in the last 18 months as we've seen. True or false? I watch people in stores and they're, I can't wait to get that stuff on. The virus. Don't you know that those things are cancer producing? They're estrogen on steroids. I got to be careful. I go into the grocery store and they're spraying everything. I mean, they spray the counter. Every time a person goes through, they spray. And I said to the, and I've got to be careful. I tell that poor girl who's running the grocery store, do you know what that stuff does to you? And then I got to go, you know what? What are you going to do? They're so scared of the stinking virus. They don't realize they're adding growth to cancer cells because estrogen is a cancer. Look, estrogen makes you a woman, makes a man a woman too. But you don't want too much of it. It dominates. It's a growth hormone. Deadly for breast cancer and prostate cancer in men. It makes things grow. So does insulin. It's a growth hormone. One is food. Estrogen, soy, and all that. Yeah, it can be food too, right? Soy. Don't touch soy with a 1,000-foot pole. And then you add stress to it. You add cortisol. Now you're pouring gasoline on these things. You're pouring gasoline on things. And it really takes off. So guys, you can't control everything in life. But you can control some things. You're not going to get away from estrogen, by the way. You just won't. That's why I tell thousands of people over the years, that's why I like flax seeds. I do. That's why I love dim. In hormonal, dim it out. And then food, cut it out. Dim it out, cut it out. I like that. I think I'll make up a song. Cut it out, dim it out. Cut out the carbs and the sugars and dim out your estrogen. You can't get rid of estrogen. It's on Mount Everest and it's in the placenta. It's in the plastics. It's in everything. Any chemical. If you plan on leaving the planet, call me. Good luck. But you can dim it. You can dim it out. Cut it out. Dim it out. I like that. Okay. I just thought of that. I like it. Okay. Guys, the news behind the news. That's my job. Bring out these studies. Go in deeper. Make it simple as much as possible. They're complex things, but simplify it. I'm a simple guy. I mean that. I gotta be simple. You give me something complicated, I got to break it down to make it where I can understand it. I'm sorry. That's just the way I'm built. I'm built that way. I got to make it simple for me so I can get my teeth into it. Okay, guys, we love you dearly, okay? I know I say that to you and you think, oh, he always says that. Yeah, but I mean it. Okay, so books are in, the reset. The reset. Boy, I'll tell you, you get someone, if you got a loved one with cancer, you know, look, you can bring a horse to water. You can't make them drink it. But if you could, get them to do the reset. Cancer hates steak. I'm telling you. And the private Facebook group, get your friends, get your family. They can join. Okay, we love that community. If they can't watch, you can share this, by the way, but if they can't and they got a smartphone, they can download the Doctors in podcast, because all of these are turned into podcasts. Thank you for just making that one of the most popular podcasts in Canada. We appreciate that. Okay, we appreciate that. And the United States, it's coming. Okay, we love you guys. Talk to you soon.